Hello, 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 and welcome to Entrepreneurs NBA Summit 2.0. For those who were with us before, we had our first summit that happened, last time at Entrepreneurs NBA. We had a great time. We had a wonderful moment with fantastic entrepreneurs that joined us last time as well. You know, I'm very glad that we had the opportunity once again to be here, once again to join you guys and bring not a platform that is going to just raise the issues around entrepreneurship or around microeconomy, but we are bringing the platform that is going to touch based on the solutions that we actually need in order to enhance the empowerment that the micro economy. I am Lucy Mario Simao, a young man entrepreneur from Angola, and I am the founder and the CEO of Profaster Consultancy, which is the head company of Entrepreneurs NBA. Entrepreneurs NBA stands for Entrepreneurs Network and Business Advancement. Here, we provide support to entrepreneurs that are looking to scale their businesses. We provide support to aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking to start their businesses. And we also provide support to entrepreneurs that are looking to build their businesses. So this is the platform that you have been waiting for. You have been willing to be part of, to take you from where you are to where you always would like to be as an entrepreneur. So this is, as I said in the beginning, our second summit, the Entrepreneurs NBA Summit 2.0. And please, I want you to be part of this. Engage with us. Be with us, okay? This is not going to be a rhetoric session only, but this is going to be an engagement session. We would like you to be part of this. Engage as much as you can. The platform is open. The speakers are going to be in the stage, and you that are following us, whatever question you have, whatever comment you have, please feel free to use the comment section to present your question or present your opinion, and we will make sure we bring that to the stage for the speakers to engage around it. This live is being streamed via Restream on LinkedIn Live and also on YouTube. So if you can't access here on LinkedIn, you can also access us or access this event via YouTube. So feel free, please, to share as much as you can. Share as much as you can the link of this summit. We want as many people as possible to join us. The topic of today, it is activating the full potential of the microeconomy in Africa. Activating the full potential of the micro businesses in Africa. Just in South Africa, there is a report that was published by SARS, okay? And they published that they have collected in the past year around $5.5 trillion, of taxes. But then 28, if I'm not mistaken, percent of that money came from the microeconomy, came from the micro businesses. But then think about this. As an entrepreneur, if you're running a micro business, it might have structure or not. It maybe it's not recognized in the government, but then you are paying taxes every time when you go buy groceries, when you go buy petrol, when you go, pay for your rent. You're always paying taxes. But at the same time, you are not being recognized as an entrepreneur or as an employee because you are not part of the formal economy. In the formal economy, people are recognized as employers, as employees, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as business people. They have a title as in the country. But we, as the microeconomy, we don't have it because we are not in a formal economy. We don't have structure, we don't have a stature, and we are not having equal access to business opportunities and investments. But then at the end of the day, we are still paying taxes, and that money is going to the Reserve Bank of the country. But then tell me something. How can we bring this microeconomy, raise the bar of the microeconomy? That is what we are here for. So if you want to activate the full potential of the microeconomy, it comes down to three things. First, giving structure to the microeconomy. Second, raising the stature of the microeconomy, which means raising the bar on honor and respect and consideration of the economy from the informal to equal that to the formal economy. And then we also need to have access to equal opportunities for business and for investments. Those are the three main things that are going to make the microeconomy powerful and raise or activate the full potential of the microeconomy if we have all those three things. But then I will bring straightforward the panelists that are going to speak tonight. Today in this summit, who are going to bring their insights. Those are two entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs that have been doing great work in the business environment, empowering entrepreneurs, working with aspiring entrepreneurs, giving opportunities to all of them, educating, bringing information, and many other things. And they are going to be part of this panel to provide insights, to provide their knowledge, and to empower the people, which are we all. So please do not forget, if you have a question, ensure you ask your question in the comment section. Thank you very much for being with us, and keep on sharing the link. So I'll bring the first speaker to the board. We will be bringing the first speaker to the panel, and his name is Eko Mensah, and he is the CEO of EMI, a company based in Ghana. He has been winning so many trophies as one of the young Africans, young entrepreneurs in Africa, most influential. Okay, he have been winning even in Ghana. He been among the 40 Ghana, young entrepreneurs in Ghana that are very successful in what they're doing, and is running a lot of different enterprises and businesses that today we want to get value from him, empowerment from him, and so much more. So please welcome Mr. Eko Mensah to the panel. Hello, Mr. Eko. How are you doing?
Hello there, my brother. I'm fine and good to see you.
I'm very happy to have you on board. Please, I've done the introduction for you, but I always love when people themselves they introduce themselves to the people following them because they only are able to introduce themselves better than anybody else. So please let the people following us know who is Eko Mensah and what does Eko Mensah
Okay.
do.
So a commencer, like you said, is an entrepreneur and a business owner in Ghana. Um, my focus is providing business development support to businesses and even individuals to ensure their consistent and sustainable growth, and then to also power up the various economies that they function in. So we do a lot of business development, we do a lot of personal development, personal branding, and then most essentially, we help businesses to build the necessary structures to ensure that they are becoming credit worthy and investment ready, so they can attract investment into their business to enable their growth, to create jobs, and then to ensure sustainability of their operations. So essentially, that's what we do. And we do it in the context of building communities, building capacity, and then providing continuous hand-holding to ensure that businesses are able to move from point A to point B. So essentially, that's what we do. And I'm very happy to be here to share my insights on what we can do to empower the
Fantastic.
micro businesses to ensure that they are fully contributing to the growth of the African economy.
Wow, very good, very good. Thank you very much for emphasizing on those points. I'm very, very happy to have you on board. And I believe that the people following us on LinkedIn and other platforms, they are also excited to listen to what you have to say based on the topic that we actually about to discuss. So let me jump to the next person that is going to join us right here on board. He is Mr. Kenchika Okeke, and he is a young man from Nigeria, someone that also I really value so much. And he runs a company called AgroVat. He is the founder and the CEO of AgroVat, and in his background, he had been already assisting a lot of startups and entrepreneurs to start businesses. And in his bag, he have around 300. This is how he says it: around 300 startups that he had already supported and empowered. So we would like to welcome him on board and have his insights, talk about the topic that we are about to discuss here. So let me bring Mr. Okeke on board.
Okay, thank you very much, Simao.
Hello, Mr.
Um,
Kenchika. How are you doing?
yeah, I'm very fine, thank you. I think
It's
it's
good to see
morning. Good
you, to
morning.
have you here.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. Please, I would like you to introduce yourself as well. I've done the introduction, but it's always best to listen to the person that we are talking to or we're talking about. Bring your own perspective of who you are. So please tell us who you are and what you have been doing.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah. So my name is Nkimjika Okeke. Um, I'm a business analyst and a financial analyst with over 6 to 7 years experience in finance and working with small scale businesses. I was the co-convener of Business Growth Initiative. It was a virtual incubator that helped over 300 businesses across Africa, from North Africa, mostly in East and Central Africa, providing business support. Apart from that, I'm the co-founder of AgroVat Nigeria. It's an agri-tech company that has helped smallholder farmers across different parts of Nigeria and Africa as well to learn about agriculture and also provide input resources and support um, towards their production. So for me personally, I have a personal vision of seeing that African businesses grow, African businesses survive, and I'm pleased to be here because it more or less ties in with what my vision as an individual is. So yes, I'm glad to be here.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that intro that you just gave us. It's really, really powerful. So I will, at this moment, I'm going to be raising out a topic, okay, so that the panelists may start discussing about this. So please, guys, whoever is following us, ensure that you are able to send your comments, share your ideas as we are here. So please, I'm going to open up to Mr. Okeke to bring up his insights on what you think about activating the um, full potential of the microeconomy in Africa. When this topic comes to your mind, what do you think when a topic like this is raised?
Okay. Thank you very much. So for me personally, I would say the small scale or micro and small scale enterprises are the bedrock of the African economy as in general, because Africa itself is a consuming economy, if I might put it that way. We are fueled by many innovations, and take it or leave it, we are a continent that has a lot of problems where innovation and micro and small scale enterprises can help to solve those problems very easily. So for me, when the word activating the potential of micro and small scale enterprises comes to mind, the first thing that comes to mind is trying to streamline what we as a continent, the policies that we as a continent have been able to look at. And that leads me to um, the Free Trade Continental Agreement, the Africa Agreement, and the Africa Agenda 2063, that stipulates various key parts or key important activities that Africa as a continent needs to solve, to move ahead in the next, 40, 50 years. So for us as individuals within this same continent, activating this potential requires us for us to sit, for us to sit as a people and understand what our problems are, in your community, in your state, in your region, in your village, in your town, within your environment. Solving problems within those environments is the best or the first most important way to activate your full potential. When you realize that you know that there are problems within that particular space or within that particular environment where you are, then it gives you an opportunity for you to actually grow your small scale business. So for me, the first and most important thing is knowing that your environment or your particular area has a problem. And it's not just about sitting and looking, it's also about observing. There are different ways by which people deduce things. One of those, like I said, is observing. People can observe, people can ask questions, people can survey. So for you as an entrepreneur who is willing to get into this line of business, the first most important thing to know is that understand that there's a problem. When you understand that, oh, this is a problem, then you now start to look out for solutions to it. I always tell people something that in every place, in every area, there is a problem. When you start seeing people complain about something, it's an opportunity for a business venture, opportunity to solve a problem. Full potential as an entrepreneur, you need to make sure that you are actually solving a problem. For example, what we are doing at Agrovat is connecting smallholder farmers, to have access to input. We realize that in the next 10, 20 years, food security would continually be a problem in Africa. And the question is, if the farmers, if those who are currently farming, the older generation who are currently farming, leave, die, or something happens, what happens to the younger people? What happens to our ability to grow more food as a people? And that is one of the reasons why we were able to set up Agrovat. And you can see that there is a problem that we are trying to solve. So for an SME, you don't just jump into say, oh, I want to start up something. You need to make sure you are solving a problem. When you understand that there's a problem and you're able to provide the solution for that problem, then you have the ability to go far as a business person. I think I will stop here to get other insights as well, probably from Mr. Mensah too. So, Mr. Mensah, I think I stated some. I would want you maybe just to go ahead and add to what I've said as well.
Okay. I mean, that's good. I think our host probably is having a bit of a challenge, so we'll just take over and then do our thing. Host, are you here?
Yes,
Yes,
I
I
was
think.
just having some technical issues. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great, great. Thank you, Mr. OKK, for those insights. Wonderful, wonderful. Really loved it. So, Mr. Mensan, what is your view on that?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Okeke, and thank you, our host. Basically, when you look at the statistics, okay, World Bank estimates that 90% of all businesses in Africa are either small, micro, or medium-sized businesses. They are categorized in a sector where it's either they are very small, they are a little bigger than small, or they are trying to move from the micro space. So the MSME um, is predominant in the African region. 90%, according to the World Bank reports, 90%. All right. And when you look at this, it is estimated that over 45 million businesses in Africa fall in the category of micro, small, and medium sized businesses. Over 44 million. So you can see that predominantly, if only 10% go out of this scope, then this is something to really focus on. The African Development Bank estimates that over 22% of working age people or young people are exploring going into businesses. And in doing that, a lot of them are starting very small and micro sized businesses that is empowering the economy. Statistically, Africa is actually the most entrepreneurial continent in the world, as well as the fastest growing with the youngest, working age individuals, which happen to make us the only continent with the most resourceful human capital at a very young age. So when you project, you would see that one, we are the fastest growing when it comes to currently we are almost like 1.3 billion people on the continent. And that's why programs like the AFTA and then the AU 2063 are important, because beyond our natural resources, we still have the youngest working age population in the world, whilst the other continents are actually dying, because they are old and they haven't also given birth enough. Africa is actually very ripe with kids and young people that really can power our economy. And that's why it is important that some of these discussions are brought to bear to throw more light on the need for us to look at this 44 million businesses that can really turn the fortunes of the country, of the continent. So I'm very excited to talk about this. The challenges of businesses are well known. All right. And on this platform, and I'm happy what you said, we are not just going to look at the challenges, but we are going to look at also some of the solutions. And we are going to look at some interventions that are being, worked on a large scale, and how we can bring it to the micro level for people to understand. But essentially, beyond everything, for me, one of the biggest challenges that the micro enterprises face is the mindset of the people that are running these businesses. And with time, we'll get to talk a bit more about it, because sometimes we are pushing the agenda of formalizing these enterprises without addressing the issue of the people that are running these enterprises. Because when you get used to doing something for so long, it is very difficult for you to do anything else. And that is what personally I've realized. And statistically, it supports that fact as well. A lot of these micro businesses, they themselves have done this for so long that any efforts to formalize them actually gets a lot of pushback, because they don't know anything else. And I'm happy for platforms like this that is geared towards building their capacity to first understand the need for that. Because a lot of the interventions that are being worked on currently on the African continent, most of these businesses would not benefit from it because of the mindset of the people that are running. Two, because of the lack of information. A lot of people don't have information about what's happening. All right. And three, because of the very structure of the businesses that they are running, making it very difficult for them to be able to scale up beyond even where they operate, not to talk of going outside the country. So if predominantly the African market is made up of MSMEs, 44 million of us, 90%, and we are doing large scale interventions that a lot of these businesses cannot take advantage of, then we're actually creating a bigger problem when we are trying to solve a problem that will turn around the fortunes of the African continent. So in some of these conversations, we should go down to understanding why the micro business is what it is, and in our efforts to formalize these businesses, recognize the limitations that we are going to face in trying to get them to understand the need and then put in the necessary effort and investment to formalizing their businesses so that they can benefit from some of these interventions that I'm sure with time we'll be talking about on this platform. So that's what I have to say. We are predominantly MSME, and conversations like this are good. And hopefully, as we go along, we'll be able to talk about strategies on how these micro enterprises can take full advantage of the opportunities that are happening on the African continent. Host, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Spectacular. Very, very powerful, Mr. Echo, for the insights you just brought. This is why we are here. We are here because we want to bring insights that are going to change and transform and transition the microeconomy in Africa. Because we are tired of being considered microeconomy, informal economy, but then at the end of the day, there is no attention that is giving to the microeconomy to actually better their operations. I remember that when I asked a question to this gentleman from United Emirates of Arab, he came for the African Free Continental Continental Free Trade area and the business forum that happened in Cape Town. And I asked him a simple question. I asked him, look, what advice could we give to corporates to better their operations in order to effectively empower the microeconomy? And he refused to answer the question because he said that the question was not at his level to answer the question, to answer it. And I was like, okay, I understand. We still have the problem in there because all the informations, everything that comes that's supposed to go down to the microeconomy is held by the formal economy, is held by the corporate level, and that is not coming down because they want the economy, the microeconomy, to meet their standards so that they can be able to get the informations and the resources. But it's impossible, in my opinion, to have the microeconomy meet the requirements that the corporates have or the formal economy has, while they're still in that same level with no information, with no resources, with no support from those who know what's supposed to be done. So now coming down to what we're speaking here, what would you say in terms of what is the real issue affecting the microeconomy development? What is the real issue affecting the growth of the microeconomy in the continent that we are? Mr. Eko, what is your input on that?
Honestly, I mean, there are fundamental challenges. Okay, one is access to finance that everybody would allude to, but I would want to go way back to the individual because the truth is businesses are a reflection of the people that run it. That's the truth. It's a fundamental truth that I think that beyond doing statistics and then looking at reports and then bringing all these areas that are challenges to micro or small businesses in Africa, let's go back to the people that are running it, because micro businesses are characterized by the people who are running are mostly the owners of the businesses. That is what the one way of characterizing what a micro business is. The person that started the business is mostly or predominantly the one that is running the business. So if we know that a business is a reflection of the leader or a business is a reflection of the business owner, then the state of the business as at the time is the person that is running it. So then if the person changes, the business will definitely change. If there's an information that the person does not know, or the information that a person gets to know but is not willing to reform or is not willing to go through the processes of structuring their business, then there will definitely be a challenge with growth when it comes to the business. So one of the points I want to make is businesses are a reflection of the people that run it. Businesses are a reflection of the people that run it. Depending on their mindset, depending on their education, depending on their capacity, depending on their experiences, depending on their exposure, and then what they think about even the economy that they function in, it would greatly influence the kind of businesses they run and the state of the businesses. So for me, that will be where I'll start from. Who are the people that are running these businesses, and what kind of mindset do they have? What kind of experience do they have? What kind of exposure do they have? What kind of access do they have to relevant information that can completely transform their business? And essentially, what is the level of willingness for them to transform their businesses or building the necessary structures to enable them to grow some of these businesses? And the truth is, if you have a business that is being run by somebody that has experienced maybe corporate world, the way they run their business will be very different from somebody that probably started the business out of survival, or somebody that started the business out of an opportunity that they found. And a lot of the time, these micro businesses come up because of the opportunities that they found in the markets that they want to take full advantage of, or they are not getting certain jobs, so then they decide that as a way of survival, they are going to start a business and then leverage on an opportunity that they discovered in the economy. So most of these people are not necessarily experienced in the way businesses are run and structured, and they are not also willing to conform to the laid down procedures and structures on how to build a sustainable and well-structured business. So, like I said, I'll go back to the basics. Who are the people? What are their mindset? What is their level of experience that they have? And what is the level of willingness? Okay, so the biggest challenge for me is capacity building with these owners of micro businesses. First is the sensitization, which I think a lot of us are doing, and getting them to be aware of the benefits of running a structured business and the opportunities they are likely to have when they run structured businesses. So the sensitization is important. Two is the capacity building, letting them know how they can do it. What are the processes? What are the things that they need to do? Three, finding out how willing they are to go through the discipline of actually structuring their businesses and maintaining what they need to do as a structured business. And then four is their ability to adhere consistently to these processes, especially when they are so used to doing business in a certain way. All right. Legislation and everything also has to come into support, because sometimes we wholesale these interventions and then the requirement. So what you realize is that the requirement of a multinational or a corporate would be the same as a requirement of a micro business that is trying to evolve into a small or a medium businesses. And that makes it difficult, because when a micro business wants to maybe standardize or get some sort of accreditation, the fees that they pay sometimes in some countries are the same as the fees that a corporate will have to pay. So then for a business that is so used to doing the wrong thing, now in their effort to do the right thing, things tend to be so expensive and so difficult to get through. Why would they not continue, especially when the laws are not being enforced in a way that forces them to do the right thing? Because sometimes we have the laws in place, but the enforcement is where the challenge is. And I'll also cite this, and then in closing, one of the biggest challenges of micro businesses and why they are not evolving into structured businesses has to do with corruption. The ability to pay their way out of what they need to do when it comes to structuring their businesses. So if corruption is predominant in any country, micro businesses will thrive, because if I can make $1 million not structuring my business, why would I structure my business and now have to pay corporate tax of as much as sometimes 30% of my interest, my profits at the end of the year? Why would I do that when I can keep my $300,000 and not structure? And that can only happen when there's corruption and people have the ability to pay their way out of doing the right thing. So some of these things are reasons why I believe micro businesses persist, and then people are not getting to the point of having to be forced to structure their businesses so that the economy would be powered. But at the end of the day, honestly, it still comes back to two things: the person and the enforcement. In the absence of corruption, you see that a lot of businesses would have to formalize, because that is a requirement by law. And that's what I'll share. I'll let my fellow panel also throw light on what he thinks.
Yes, please, Mr. Bring your insights on that. We'd love to hear you.
Okay. I think Mr. Mensah has spoken a lot already on this, and he has really done justice to to what we believe is part of the issues, surrounding the growth of medium and small scale enterprises. He said something with regards to personality, and yes, I would still fall back to that. In my experiences, I realized that some people who started up businesses in Southern Africa. This is no disrespect to region or anything. Um, had some other environmental conditions or economic conditions within their own countries that made them not to have this hustling spirit when it comes to the business. So you have people in certain areas who are much more eager to start up businesses and are willing to push themselves for it. Some people in certain areas are not having that personality to keep up with it. And just like what Mr. Mensah said, this is where capacity building and development comes in. The ability to train, retrain these people who are starting up businesses or who have these businesses to help them scale. And so, just like what he said, it is important that, for those medium and small scale enterprises to scale up to that level where they need to be, the mindset has to change. You have to see it as a business where you need to put in your 100%. Someone said something that, when you are in a business, it's not, you don't have a 9 to 5. It's not a shift. It's every day. It's 24 hours you need to put in. So you need to be always thinking about the business. And when you are not thinking about the business, it affects the way the business is being structured. It affects the way you make milestones to be achieved within that. Yes, that is very important. I will tie personality again to financing, right? A lot of businesses do not keep records. And for financing, it is very important that for me to know that you are able to make a particular amount of money, I need to also see that you have a knowledge of the fact that this is where I am, this is what I've done so far, and this is what I need to step forward, right? I did a survey sometime. It's just a personal survey based on the number of businesses I worked with them to understand how many of them kept financial records. And I don't want to baffle you, but I had a 98.5% who were not actually keeping accurate records. So it's just a question of, oh, it's a business. I make money here, I return the money here. And sometimes this is what stops intervention programs getting to some of these people. Yes, you might have the knowledge, you might know, oh, there's an intervention, but then when it comes to your finances, there's a lag. So it's difficult for you to be able to have access to some of these intervention programs because those people who are offering these programs want to make sure that you have the capacity or you have the knowledge of where your business is and where your business needs to go. So while we are talking about personality, the person also has to have the ability to either learn about finance or employ someone who has that ability of finance to say, okay, look, these are my costs as a business. This is my expected revenue. And then it's easier to say, okay, oh, I want to scale. I'm making this at the moment, but if I am able to pull up 200 new, businesses here and there, if I'm able to add this to my inventory, I can scale, I can go higher. So small scale businesses to achieve their full potential need to work a lot more around their finance. The third thing is data. We have a problem, especially here in Africa, with regards to data keeping. And when I say data, it's not just secular data or your government-based data. We have issues with that. But businesses need to be able to keep data, especially businesses in the tech that are moving towards the new line of technology. It is important that businesses, to achieve their full potential, need to constantly keep data records. There are a lot of softwares and platforms that help businesses to keep data, number of people moving up to a site. All these things help you to know as a business that, okay, if I have, for example, if I have 200 people who are coming to my website and are leaving that website, for example, why are they leaving, right? So the presence of data helps those businesses, and a lot of businesses need to step up that fact to move towards much more of data collection and data gathering, because that is the only way you can be able to achieve your potential. That's the only way you can be able to reach out to the right set of customers or the right set of people in that business who can pay for that product or that service. So three things. One is the personality. Two is the knowledge or the ability to get someone who has the knowledge of finance. And then 3 is also keeping accurate records. My co-panelist spoke something about legislation, and I think that is extremely important for a business or for a company. Especially, okay, I'll give an instance here in Nigeria. There are some particular projects that you cannot undertake if your company does not have certain legal documents to back it, right? So for smallholder or small scale businesses, for micro SMEs, there is a need to always keep yourself abreast of legal activities. Um, that legality also helps you to be able to scale. Imagine I came to you today to say, look, Simao, I want to give you a contract. Let's say you are a producer of soap, right? And I say I want to give you a contract to supply 500 cartons of soap to a government institution or something, or a company. And then, okay, I say, oh, yes, I can do it. I can do it. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. And then I come in and I say, well, let me see your documents, just to show that you are legally incorporated as a company and you have been certified to carry out this business. And then I realized you do not have the legal documents. It poses a huge challenge to doing business. And that is one thing that is also affecting many small scale businesses across Africa. You have companies outside the world who want to transact, who want to do business with you, companies who want maybe exports, companies who want to import things, but they need to ensure that you're a legal company, you're legally set up as a company. So these things are major things that businesses need to put their eye on to ensure that they maximize the opportunities that they receive. Another thing is networking. Um, Networking is extremely important, and most people do not understand, because the truth is, as a person, as a business, you are who you meet, right? If I've never met Mr. Mensa before, I cannot do business with him. If I've not met you, Simao, before, there's no way I can do business with you. You have to meet. So, and that is where networking comes in. Business owners need to know that, in as much as you are chasing your customers, you are trying to get those customers to your side, you also need to network, find out what is happening within your industry, find out the players within your industry, pitch your product to them, look out for opportunities of partnership. Most things that we are complaining about with regards to finance can be solved through partnership, right? I'll give an example. If I want to, let's say I want to scale my business. I'm an e-commerce company, for example, and I want to scale. I can get into partnerships with the major stakeholders around the e-commerce chain. I know that, okay, there are suppliers, there are logistic companies, right? Meeting these guys, you can be able to set up fantastic agreements. You say, you know what, if you were providing this service for me at 400, naira or 400, whatever currency, sell it to me at, let's have it at 300, let's have it at 200, right? Those partnerships helps small scale businesses to cut down on their costs. And at the end of the day, the less cost you have as a business owner, the easier it is for you to scale. The easier it is for you to have extra funds aside, to run things that you want to do. So networking is very important. Networking also gives you the opportunity to meet out with people outside your space and find ways to connect with them. I'll give an instance. I'm an accountant, right? My background is in accounting, is in finance. But when I find myself in the agri space, there's something I always do. I always try to make sure I put my foot down. I go out to meet people who are in that space. I listen to them, right? I get insights, and I look out for means of partnership in everybody I meet. There is always a way you can partner with everybody. It is just a question of knowing where your problems lie and how you can use those partnerships to survive them. So networking is very important. And I'm pleased with what Simao is doing at the Entrepreneurs MBA, because it's more like a networking opportunity. Startup founders, MSMEs can be able to meet other MSMEs, get insights on what's happening within their particular sector, reach out to even MSMEs in other continents or in other regions of the world, and then get insights on how they are, growing their business or how they are building their business. For example, um, I always try to relay more with people from India. It's a funny analogy, but you know why I do that is because they understand, or like we here, they understand a lot more about how business works. They are very good at managing businesses, and they are much more technologically advanced in terms of the sector I'm looking at. So I always try to reach out to them, speak to them. Oh, I want to get your advice on this. I want to get your insight on this. What do we do here? What do we do there? I take those insights, I take those knowledge, and then relay it back to my own, environment and see how it works. So while companies should look out for their personality, check out their finances, networking is also a very very important part for them to fully actualize their potentials. The Africa
Very
Agreement
good.
conference that was held in South Africa this year, I was funny enough, I couldn't get there, but I was privileged to listen, to some of the key highlights that were stated. I was also privileged to also look at the Africa agenda, and I realized that we as a continent, right, some of the problems that were already being highlighted are what micro and small scale enterprises are already starting to solve, right? But the question is, if they will be willing to solve that, the government wants to intervene. The government wants to help to speed up these things because, some of these things people would naturally expect the government to provide them. But where the MSMEs are coming in as a stopgap to help provide some of those services to help boost the economy, they need this intervention. And if they are going to get intervention, they need to network. They need to go out to events like this. They need to make sure that their finances are okay. They need to make sure that their legality is, as a company, is not questioned. And they need to make sure that their personality, their capacity is also being developed so that they can be able to manage businesses very well. We are seeing a lot of startups, technology startups in Africa raising seed funding, and the next thing we hear is, oh, those seed, those particular, something happens, there's a layoff, something happens, you don't hear about them again. Some of these things boils down to who is in charge, who is handling, what's the person's capacity, right? So businesses, before you go out even to get this funding, before you move out to scale up your business, you need to make sure that your personality, your capacity is being developed at all times. If you don't have a particular business and knowledge, go out there. There are a lot of open online programs that offer, business learning services. Go out there, take that opportunity, learn, know stuff about the business, the basic things. If you don't know about finance, try to understand what happens with in the world of finance, costs, revenues, how to make investments. These basic things will help your business scale. So that even if you go out tomorrow as a startup and you raise funds, it is easy for you to get funds and keep the funds. It's one thing to get those funds, it's another thing to keep it. We've had lots of experiences where startups, raise 4.5, 9 million.
And I think not cutting you, Mr. Okeke. I think on that point of investment is something that also we would like to understand. Because both of you have spoken the same, particularly in the same perspective, which is good. And we understand as microeconomy, micro entrepreneurs, that the issue affecting the growth of the microeconomy in Africa is number one is structure. Okay, so there is no structure in the microeconomy sector. A lot of businesses running with no structure, so we need to structurize it. People need to get structure, right? Get rid of corruption and do things the right way. Go get a document for your company, register that, get the licenses for you to run the business, and those will enhance credibility around your company or around your services or products that you would like to launch to the business market. But then let's say, okay, we have FCFTA bringing out the regulations to enhance free trade in the continent, and they have also a FCFTA business hub where they take actually products from entrepreneurs in different countries and they sell those products in that hub, and people from different countries can come and get the products from there and trade from there, like a trading hub. Okay, but they still have standards which those products needs to have in order to meet those needs, in order to be on those places. Okay, so they are working on getting the borders, put down the borders to allow free trade, but the standards are still there. The standardization is still there. The goal is to make the products of Africans or African products to meet the same standards as the Western products have, international standards. But then when are we going to standardize our own products and our own services based on our own standards? That is where the question is. Why do we have still to rely on international standards in order to validate what is produced in Africa? I would like Mr. Eko Mensah to bring insights on that, because there is a lot being produced in the continent, but there is no way for it to go out. And the microeconomy is suffering. Let's put the corruption aside. Let's put the structure aside. Okay, because they need to get standards for their services, standards for their products. But those standards are according to the European standards, according to the International Commission standards. So when are we going to focus on our own standards as a continent?
Okay, so the thing is, we have our standards, but it goes with the perception of what the African standard is, the African product is. Africa has been over the years branded as inferior, branded as poor, branded as, all the negatives, so that whoever is doing the branding can literally buy us cheap and evolve whatever they're buying and then bring it back to us more expensive. That's why we export in the raw state and then we get it in a refined state, because it's a deliberate attempt to ensure that the branding and the perception of the African brand is low. We do have our own standards. We do have our own measures of what good is and what bad is. We do have our own values and ethics and everything. But the truth is, the powers that be have built a perception that what our standard is inferior. Unfortunately, because we've gone through various forms of evolution as the African continent, from the time where we were actually independent to the time where we were colonized to the time where after colonization, we have developed a taste for foreign things. And that's why my fellow panelists actually shared that we are a consuming continent, but then predominantly our taste as a continent comes from foreign. All right, it's foreign. Our taste is foreign, so everything foreign is good, everything local is bad. And that's what actually is predominant even in the continent, where whatever looks good has to be foreign and whatever looks bad has to be African. But the truth is, the authentic things, the natural things, the things that are actually healthy are the things that are African. But of course, if somebody wants you to buy their products, they would definitely brand yours as terrible and then brand theirs as the best so that it's most preferred. Imagine, even with us as individuals, when somebody is educated outside the African continent, they are considered more elite than somebody that is educated in the African continent. So until we work on our perception on what African is and what foreign is, and then accept ourselves and our standards as the preferred, we will never stop being affected by the standards that are literally imposed on us. Then again, when you want to do foreign trade, you have to adhere to foreign standards, because if we want to go beyond the African continent, it is what is accepted that we would have to conform to. But then that's why some of these interventions, like the AFTA, is promoting intra-African trade, where we trade amongst ourselves in a way that is acceptable to us. Because if we have access to 1.2 billion people, then there will not necessarily be a need to look outside to be able to get our businesses to flourish, because we have foreign markets. So unfortunately, as long as we are importing from them, we need to adhere to what they say are the standards and what good is. As long as we are not valuing what we have as Africans, making the African inferior and the foreign superior, it would consistently be a matter that we need to look at and a matter that would affect our local trade. Because at the end of the day, when you look at our markets, 90 to 95% of all the products that are heavily patronized are foreign. A lot of the businesses that are actually evolving into giant businesses are foreign. When you look at businesses that have even gotten to the trillion mark when it comes to market value, or the value, the net worth of the business, most of it come from South Africa, and they're just a handful. A lot of the businesses on the African continent that are doing massive trade are all foreign. So even with this after, agreement or after program that we are running, if we don't take care and ensure that African businesses are given the necessary boost, foreign companies will still take full advantage because they have the capacity to be able to trade, across the continent, taking in consideration all the challenges that trading across the African continent comes with. Local businesses do not have the capacity to be able to trade across, even trading outside your state or outside your region is difficult because you don't have the capacity. So some of these things would have to really look at, because until we really focus on enhancing the capacity of the African private sector run by Africans, we would not have, the benefits of some of these interventions that are being widespread all over the place. So this is what I'll conclude with. As long as our taste is foreign, everything will remain good if it's foreign, and everything will remain bad if it's African. So let's go back to the fundamentals and retell our story. Brand ourselves in a way that is acceptable to Africans first, where if you are rich, you don't demonstrate it through foreign products. You buy the foreign cars, you buy the foreign design.
I think he has a network problem there.
Yes. Um, we might have some issues on the side of our analyst, Mr. Echo, some technical issues. We hope he comes back to continue the conversation. But I would like to jump to Mr. Okeke. What do you think about the relationship that Africa is building with China? Because now, China, in this relationship between Africa and China, they're more on providing, getting from China, what is products from China to get access in the African continent, and but remember, we do have our own companies, we have micro businesses, we have entrepreneurs producing in the continent, but then we're still trying to get partnerships and collaboration with China to to bring inside the continent more products that in fact could be produced in the continent. What is your input or insight on this relationship between Africa and China? How does that affect the growth of the microeconomy in the continent?
Okay. Thank you very much, Simao. Okay, so yes, personally, I I am in strong support of the
I think we are having issues with our panelist connection or connectivity on the other side. So as we continue here, please be free to send your messages. Okay, send your messages. Share your insights as well in the comment section. Your questions will be answered um, right here. We will be able to bring your questions to the panel, and people and the panelists will be able to answer them. So let's just give few more minutes to the panelists and see what's going on. Okay, great. We have Mr. Eko Beck.
Yeah, my apologies. I had a glitch in the internet.
No, no problem, no problem. I think Mr. Okeke also had an issue with his internet. I don't know what happened. So let's hope he's back as soon as possible. But yes, I think you could continue. You can continue with on your when you were giving your insights as
Yeah,
the connection was
great. I was
being a
saying
bit
that
of trouble.
quality is quality. Honestly, I think that our attention to detail should be enhanced as Africans because at the end of the day, whether it is foreign standard or African standard does not have to be anything less of a quality product, and that comes with attention to detail, that comes with investment, that comes with regulation, and that comes with enforcement of the regulations that govern, quality and productivity and standards. So one of the things we need to do really in changing the perception of the African product or the African quality or the African standard is paying attention to, quality. It doesn't matter where in the world an African product is, it has to be, you know, quality, widespread. Because there was a time that we all knew that Chinese products were inferior, but they've evolved. They've evolved to the point where it has become the world's go-to manufacturing, country where everything is manufactured from China. So despite the perception that Chinese goods were inferior, they evolved to the point where they pay attention to quality now. And then when you see a Chinese good, and they even did it in a grade, so depending on what you are willing to spend, they are able to give you a quality that sits with your investment. So quality is quality, and I think that it's about time that Africans really focused on our standards of quality and then making sure that we're enhancing it in a way that wherever we take an African product, it still fits very well in the global space. So that's what I'll conclude with.
Fantastic. So now that is something that we need to look into very, very closely. Because even though we want to break the borders, we want to allow free trade between the African countries, we still need as well to raise the bar of our own standards. What is produced in the country needs to be valued at the same level as something that comes from the Western world or from the other continents around the world. And that competition level needs to be there because sometimes when the Europeans or the Americans or agents they bring their products to the country to African countries, they know already that they're going to make the money. Why? Because there is less competition in the continent. Okay, there is nothing competing with them, and that is what is already making us lose the ground as as a continent. But if our standards, our products have the standards that are in the same level with the European level, the European standards or the American standards or the Asian standards, then the competition is going to be hard. Our entrepreneurs will be able to earn their grounds and make more profit out of the land where they are. But then now, ask the question to Mr. Okeke. I believe he's now back. Mr. Okeke, are you with us? Mr. Kenjika, are you with us? Can you hear? Okay, we see that he's still having issues with connection. So I'll bring the question to you, Mr. Echo. My question to Mr. Okeke was, knowing now that there is a strong partnership um, between Africa and China, okay, between African countries and China, how does that partnership affect the microeconomy in the continent? What is your input on that?
Okay, so the truth is, when it comes to economies of scale, where you get more if you have more investment, and then you're able to bring the cost down if you produce more, that makes it
Mm-hmm.
very difficult
Yeah.
for us to be able to compete on any level with countries like China, who have the capacity to produce more in a very less costly manner, and have built a system that is able to really churn out a lot of products globally in minutes. So until, like I said, in Africa, unfortunately, we are at a point where we need a lot of intervention from the government level, where we are not at the point where individual businesses have the capacity to actually even compete when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to distribution and all that, because we don't have the money, we don't have the capacity, and sometimes we don't even have the technical know-how to be able to do these things. So it has to be a government, like willpower. The government need to come in with a vision to drive the African private sector for us to be able to play on a global scale. It has to be a
Mm,
government intervention. It has to be a government program that is focused on powering up the local industry, the private sector that is driven by Africans to make them global. I'm yet to see, maybe aside Rwanda and some of the East African states, and maybe some South African countries and all that, government programs that are really focused on building the African global businesses. I don't know, but somehow we tend to actually be against local businesses that are doing well and embrace foreign businesses that are in Africa and taking over our market. And it's a very sad reality that sometimes we don't talk about, but that's the truth. Go anywhere, any country, any continent, there's the government program geared towards empowering local industries to be able to play on a global scale. And that's what China did or is still doing. You can't just bring foreign product into China and then expect them to accept it. But then they would go study it, re-engineer it, and now produce it for the rest of the world. And that is the competitive advantage they have, because they are empowering their own people to be able to do these things on a global scale, where the government is coming in to power up local industry, local SMEs, local micro businesses, to be able to give them the capacity. And until we get to that point, when you go to the US, for instance, the government is interested and well vested in the local industry, because at the end of the day, the money stays in the country. They're able to create jobs for the citizens, and they're able to power up the economy. But I don't know if any of you have actually seen any government program that is focused on building globally competitive African businesses that can play on a
mm,
global scale, African businesses that are well funded,
mm,
African businesses that have leaders that have the technical know how, that have the experience, that can really drive the African business. A lot of the time, it's not so. When you come to my country, Ghana, for instance, most of the big businesses are not locally owned. So how do you expect them to keep the money in the economy and then to drive the economic growth with the money they are making? They are going to repatriate their profits, their income, and at the end of the day, the economy suffers. But most African governments have shown over the years that they are more receptive to foreign investors, foreign companies. Why? Because they don't have the political will, they don't have the desire to even grow indigenous businesses, especially when they are not politically aligned. And that's where the challenge is.
mm,
First of all,
mm,
you need to be politically aligned as a business to even get any sort of interventions by the government, which is wrong. So that if you're on the side of a party that is not a ruling government, you are already disadvantaged. So then you need to literally be corrupt in order to see your business grow in Africa, because there is no political plan, no political drive to be able to build local businesses to get to the continental scale. And for me, that is one of the biggest challenges we have. If there is no drive from government to be able to position Africa as a value-driven continent where we trade on value and not necessarily on our need, on the things we lack, on the things that we need people to come help us with. Every time I've seen, all these leaders going out there talking about people coming in, so for us to attract foreign direct investment, it is not necessarily value. It is needs this. Africa needs help. Africa needs that. As if we have nothing to offer. And when you present your continent, when you present your country like that, of course, they are going to come buy you cheap. And they are going to infiltrate your economy with everything that is not yours in a way to take away everything you need to enhance your personal growth or your country's growth. So for me, at the end of the day, if we don't have governments looking at how to drive African businesses to be able to play on a continental and a global scale, there's no way that we'll get to the point where even the micro businesses are going to benefit, because it's a trickle-down effect. If businesses at the medium size level are being equipped and supported to grow, the micro businesses who now feed these medium-sized businesses that have become global businesses would also have to be forced to grow so that they meet the standards of these global businesses to be able to, interact with them. So unless there's a political will and a political drive to be able to start investing, because Africa has to be driven by private sector development and not aid. But unfortunately, we are still really focused on aid. And that's where the challenge is. Anybody that gives you help will dictate the terms. And there's nowhere in the world that anybody that is helping will dictate terms that will be beneficial to you on the long scale or in the long term. And that's where the challenge is. We are very micro in our thoughts. We are very short-sighted. So then we need the aid to have an instantaneous relief without looking at what the long-term effect will be. And that's why a lot of economies cannot even do the things they do, because they are heavily in debt. And when you're in debt, you don't have the drive to be able to drive independence in the private sector. And for me, that's what I will share.
So I think I believe that from what you just said, Mr. Eko, is that the issue of debt in many African countries is also affecting the appropriate allocation of funds to the micro businesses. And that is one thing that not many people are actually looking into. It's a great insight which you actually just brought, because if they have the money but they can't allocate that because of the debt, so it's like the government is focusing on trying to pay back the debt instead of empowering its own country. So it's crazy. It's just unbelievable how debts in African countries are affecting the growth of the economy of the continent. And another point, which is also very important to look into, is I think I saw a post somewhere. I think it was an Instagram kind of thing, that someone posted saying that if Ghana does not pay back the debt that they have for China, China is going to take control of the Ghana's resource. And this is something that we are not looking into. We're not seeing this because we want to bring China as a great partner or number one partner, premium partner for the empowerment of African economy. But we forget that what is their plan behind it? What do they have as a plan behind it? They're coming as socialists. We want everybody to be happy. But what is their real plan behind it? Do they really want to see Africa grow, or in the agreements which they sign, there are clauses that might make African countries suffer in the next run? PLO Lumumba, I think the Professor Lumumba, he said something in one of his meetings few weeks ago that we are African is heading to a new era of slavery, which is not the same as it was before, and we're trying to run away from US because they are openly aggressive to Africans, but we're going to China, who is showing like a face of compassion that I want to help, we want to be there for you guys, but they're hiding something behind it, a different form of slavery on the African continent that later on African countries are going to pay it, you know. I think our leaders are not aware of it, and it's a crucial thing. We need to be able to raise this issue up. We're not against China to join us as a partner in the development of the African economy, but what we are trying to make a point here is what are the intention behind it? Are they just for a support, economical empowerment? Which, if they are coming for economical empowerment, they need to be able to give space to the microeconomy to grow and not bring to Africa things that we as Africans, we as entrepreneurs can do in the continent to avoid certain expenses to come in the continent, and we can, avoid certain debt to come into the continent. So I believe this is one point that we need to look into. But as we're heading close to the end of our conversation, I would like to give also Mr. OKK a word, because I also asked them the same question, but unfortunately the connection was giving him trouble. I don't know what is going on in Nigeria now. Is it raining or is it too hot? The connection is giving you issues.
Okay, I apologize.
I was actually expecting more on Mr. Echo on that side, because he said it's raining in Ghana. So I was maybe like, oh, maybe the connection is going to have trouble on that side.
No.
But apparently,
no, it's actually very sunny.
it's
It's actually very sunny. I had a slight issue with my internet connection, but I think I've restored it back. It's okay now. Yeah, so before I was cut off on that, I got your question with regards to China and how the impact of the trade with China could affect us as a continent. Mr. Echo had already made a fantastic insight with regards to how the debts and the terms of agreements is affecting us as a country, as a continent. And of course, you can see that easily in the budgets that governments, federal governments of different countries set aside. You hear, countries where the budget is taking up 50% of the country's GDP. It means that the ability of that country to produce goods and services, 50% of this has gone into debt. And that is a very big problem, because if the country itself cannot be able to have enough funding to produce goods and services, or to move goods and services across, across that particular country, or production, it affects the country. It affects the country, and if it affects the country, of course, it affects the continent. Especially when you have, major countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Egypt, big countries like that, having those kind of issues, it has its own ripple effect on the entire continent. Now, in terms of agreement, there are some things that, well, I don't know, I'm not in government, but there are some things that I feel probably the government should look more into, right? Agreements are not one-sided. There's something we call, there's something more like a value for value relationship that, governments should set up. Now, rather than, what we have in Africa today is the government taking up huge aid from China in return for natural resources, drilling, and exporting and all, taking out natural resources and other exploitation. And I think it's a very funny way to have an agreement with somebody, because this is what happened before. This was the colonialism we had before. But it's just that this is a much more advanced colonialism, or the terms of that agreement has more or less, it's almost the same thing with what we had before, where you had the whole slave trade. I'll give you the few aid we have, and then in exchange you give me slaves that can work on my farm. It's the same thing happening here. I'm going to give you aid. In exchange, you are going to give me some of your natural resources that I will process and return back to you. So for us as of for African countries, I think the focus should be a value for value proposition. If I'm going to say, right, I'm giving you $500 million in aid, the government of that country should come up to say, you know what, this is how I intend to pay this 500 million by stimulating my own economy. And how do I do that? If you are going to produce this, I am going to stipulate that your manufacturing or your machinery companies in China produce, for example, I want to give a practical example. In Africa, we have a problem with processing of products, agro products, fast-moving consumer goods and all the likes, right? Sorry, I have a light issue here. So we have issues with fast-moving consumer goods, not being able to process some of the crops that we have here. And then just like what Mr. Mensah said, you take it outside, and then those guys put a value that they want to put for you, to sell, right? If we have an agreement whereby we are saying, look, China, you are giving us $500 million in funding or in aid for construction purposes or for building or for maintenance, and in exchange, we are mobilizing 3,000 small-scale entrepreneurs to purchase machinery or to purchase equipment that can be used to process some of the products we have here. For me, I think that's a good deal. To some extent, I think that's a good deal. So these are some of the innovative ways that the government should be able to look out for. And just like what Mr. Mensah had said, it has its own ripple effect on the economy. Imagine an economy where the budget is being put, a lot of the budget for a particular fiscal year is being put into servicing debts. Nigeria is a perfect example. We have that issue where servicing debts has become a major part of our budget for every year, and it's eating into the GDP of the country, right? So for other countries that don't have that population, like Zambia, other countries within Eastern Africa or Southern Africa, where the population cannot be able to produce that GDP, that's where you have issues of the Chinese government coming in to take over the airports or take over the infrastructure that they built on themselves, right? So the government should be much more innovative. There is no harm in asking for aid, right? But make that aid or that agreement have a value for value, whereby you are saying, I am stimulating your economy by bringing in, and you are giving me aid of this amount. Fine and good. Fine, you want to build this factory, you want to build this, road strip, or you want to build this airport. Fine and good. I am going to mobilize 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 business individuals within my country to procure equipment from your country. And you have to ensure that you are providing those equipment at a particular quality so that I can be able to process, right? So you have, these are some of the innovative ways where the relationship can be better harmonized. And then at the end of the day, we are making it's a win-win. Because if you are giving me money, I'm stimulating your economy, I'm purchasing from you those processing equipment, I can easily process equipment, process crops or process items I need here and ship it off. And just like what Mr. Mensah was saying, there is this propaganda to degrade whatever is coming out from the Nigerian market, right? For example, there are some crops that if you take to North America, the quality value that is being given to you is reduced, right? And they come and tell you, what, this is not up to the standard. And the question is, what do you mean? What exactly, in quotes, is the standard, right? Yes, you have some lapses that are bound to occur here and there due to shipping, due to time spent, and all those. And most of these people who export these things are complaining. Because imagine where you've made so much effort to process, to produce, and then you package it to ship it off to export. And because maybe of the time frame within which it was at the port and all that, there were little changes in the quality. And then you are saying that you cannot go further with it because it's not the quality that is required. So African countries, African governments need to step up to make the processing themselves in their country. Process and package, and then you ship off. So that way, you won't come and tell me that this is not the quality, because the quality has already been defined within the African space, and people are using it. So I think that is a relationships, not just to build an aid thing, but to work more with a value for value relationship to say, you know what, I'm giving you this, take this in return.
Yes, that's very critical. That's very critical because even when it comes to BRICS, even when it comes to BRICS organizations, um, one thing is that China is overtaking everything because now in Russia, the Chinese currency is traded. Okay, but we did not hear yet that the Russian currency is traded in China. We didn't hear yet that the South African currency is traded in China or in Russia. You know what I mean? So those are things that we need to look into. Soon we're going to have the Chinese currency being traded in South Africa. What about rand being traded in China as well, in Russia as well, in Brazil as well? Because they are all one organization fighting for the same cause. So now, why is only China at this stage that is getting so much access, so much privileges? We need to look into these agreements properly and restructure it. Make sure that African countries have the full benefit and privileges when they are participating on these kind of organizations. And this is what we're aspiring. If we say we want the Africa that we want, the Africa that we aspire to have, what we need to do is raise the bar of the African standards. That's what we need to do. Make African standards the same level as the international standards. If somebody wants to come to Africa to sell his product, they also need to meet African standards. They also need to look into the African standards for their products to be sold in our continent. And African products, if they needs to be sold in the European countries, they need to recognize that we also have good standards. We also have packages of our products in our own standards that also is in the same level as their standards. And this is how we can enhance the microeconomy. Because if the entrepreneur in the corner who produces chia butter does not have his product exported to other countries because of standardization, then that product is going to, it's going nowhere. And that's how we are degrading and destroying the economy even more. So we are fine. We need to be able to advocate for better standards to raise the bar of the African standards. So basically, I'm really very very grateful for the conversation. So I'm going to ask each of you to give your final words, your final advices to micro entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and what you believe could be of great value for them out of everything that we have spoken here. So I will start from Mr. Equo. What would you say is an advice to the micro businesses and small businesses in the continent?
Okay, so thank you so much. I think it's been a very insightful session. But what I'll say really is beyond everything you don't know, beyond everything you don't have, start with yourself. If you're a micro business owner here, a micro business professional or executive, someone that is running if you're a micro business owner here, what I'll say is that do not focus on what you don't know, what you don't have, because predominantly those are the things that we worry about most. Start with yourself, because the truth about all this is that a business is a reflection of the person that is running. That's why John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. If you have a big vision for your business, the way you will go about running your business will be very different from somebody who just wants to survive and make some money and get by. So start with yourself. Be very aggressive about finding information. It won't just come to you. I mean, we are all trying, our best to be able to provide you information, to be able to get access to some resources and all that. That's what we do, all the three of us. But the truth is, it is your responsibility as a micro business owner and the vision that drives your business that would push you to go find what you don't have, to go find the information you don't know and to take full advantage of these things that are going around. Because the foreign companies that are in Africa, it didn't just go to them. They found the information, they did their research, and then they invested. And it's the same thing for me. That's one of the realization that we need to really push down, for the micro entrepreneurs, businesses to know that your business at this point is a reflection of who you are. And if you've taken notes, any business that is struggling, the moment a new owner or new investors take over, the first thing they do is to fire the CEO or the MD. And sometimes they even literally fire the entire management board. Why? Because it's really their incompetence beyond everything else. Because if they were good at what they did, they will realize that even if their product was becoming obsolete, because they are good, they will know what to do as an intervention to still stay in business by diversifying or innovating. So if they remained to the point where things went so bad that they are bankrupt and they've been bought over or taken over, then they don't deserve to still stay in that position. So I'll wrap up by saying that your business is really a reflection of who you are, what you know, and what capacity you have. People with big capacity run big companies. People with big vision run big companies, regardless of which country they find themselves. And honestly, we don't let people have the responsibility that they are supposed to have, because culturally, widespread across many African countries, we are very religious. And religion is a very dependent culture because we depend on a supreme being for everything. So you realize that at the end of the day, we don't take responsibility for the state of our businesses. And regardless, I try to get people out of this mindset that, we are deprived, we are underprivileged, we don't know what we are supposed to do and all those things. It's nobody's responsibility to ensure the growth of your business, but yours. If the government is doing their work, it would make it easier because it is creating an enabling environment for you. But beyond the government, honestly, it is all on you. That's why some people will move from their local country to other countries, because they are driven by a certain passion that the country doesn't have the environment to be able to accommodate them. So start with yourself. Build your capacity, build your knowledge, build your information, and then get to the point where whatever kind of business you want to run, you go out and look for people that have done it. And then you literally learn how it is done and replicate. Growth in business, growth in life is about replication and improvement. So then if it has worked for somebody, why are you not humble enough to go learn and then implement? Why are you waiting? Because the whole state of dependency, the whole state of aid permeates through our private sector in a way that everybody is waiting for things to be handed down to them. But it is nobody's responsibility to do that for you but yourself. Because when collectively we are all growing our business, that's when the economy also grows. The government's responsibility is to create the enabling environment. When that is created, it is your responsibility to have that vision and build that capacity to be able to grow your business. So stop blaming anybody, because in the same country, in the same region, in the same locality, there are people that are successful in their business. So why are you failing? And that's the question you need to ask yourself. It is all on you, because if other people are doing well and you are not doing well, and it's the product, you should have the knowledge to know that it is the product. Looking at the market, you don't have enough markets to be able to grow the product beyond what it is now. So it's either you innovate, you diversify, or you completely change. Because the whole point of business is that if there's no demand, then there's no point for supply. It is a basic economy. But a lot of people are doing businesses that, even with everything that is happening in the global space, their business will be completely obsolete. I mean, imagine somebody in a micro business running internet cafe at this time. Honestly, there's no intervention that will help them. Because, I mean, now internet is widespread and is mobile. So that if you're still running an internet cafe, then you probably have to be in a certain remote, region to be able to make money from that. But you know that you can't scale this business. So my conclusion is really start with yourself. If you have a bigger vision, it will reflect in the way you go about your business. But if you don't, there's no intervention that will probably help you. Be curious enough to know what it takes to grow a big business. Be curious to know what it takes to grow a structured business, and then be disciplined enough to go through the process of implementing what you have learned. And then at the end of the day, have some ethical guidelines that will ensure that you are doing the right thing, even though because of corruption you can get away with it. These are the three things I'm going to share with anybody that cares to know. And at the end of the day, the growth of your business is fully dependent on your growth. So focus on growing, and your business will reflect that growth that you're experiencing. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Oko, for those insights. Really love it. Mr. Okeke, what would you say as last words to the entrepreneurs following us? We are unable to hear you, sir. We cannot hear you, Mr. Okeke. I hope it's all right on that side. Okay, I think we are having some technical issues from Mr. Okeke side. Um, I believe that he's going to be able to fix it, but otherwise, while he's trying to fix the connection on his side, uh, we are very glad. Thank you very much for actually joining us, and whoever has been following us, and Mr. OK Echo for also being with us in this session. We are very happy to have your insights, your feedbacks, and everything that you've just shared. It's so really powerful. Mr. Kenjika, please, are you able to speak? Are you now able to speak, Mr. Okeke? Okay, so we're still having issues with the connection. I don't know what's going on. Um, Let me see that again. Mr. Okeke, are you able to speak? Okay, I think we're still having the issues with the connection. But anyways, so we're going to close. Um, we will have to close our session because I don't think Mr. Okike is going to be able to reconnect effectively. So what we're going to be doing at this moment is I'm thanking everybody. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. If you wish to get in touch with us, please don't forget it's Entrepreneurs NBA on LinkedIn. And you can also check on Google Profasta Consultancy, and you will get to know more about who we are and what we do, and how also best we can support you in your journey as entrepreneur. Please, we are here to provide you the three important things that macroeconomy is in need. Number one, structure, which we spoke about here. Raise the bar of your status, bring you to the level of the formal economy. And second and third, it is to give you access to opportunities to trade and to get investment. So please make sure that you reach us. We are here to support you with strategic management consulting services and market integration so that you can be able to understand what the market looks like and how you can scale your business. So I'm Lucy Mario Simão, straight from Cape Town here in South Africa. I brought you this in collaboration with YouTube Global and all our other partners, Entrepreneurs MBA Summit 2.0. Stay tuned with us as we will bring to you Entrepreneurs MBA Summit 3.0 in the next coming months. Thank you very much and God bless.